part of your training. I'm not going to sell you any, any BS. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. This is something that you need to be doing. Because if you're not doing, then the other guy may be. He might be doing it by accident, but he may be doing it. So, and this is something which I believe can definitely give the advantage. So, and it's been found to be really useful. I mean, I've had one guy who was a world champion in a full contact sport. At one point, sort of, he was parading around the ring massively in peak state, and he was like yelling, "Oh, this is better than sex." And for me, that's there's a couple of questions there. Either he was in a really high state, or his sex life is not what it should be. So.
It's not something you want to ask a guy afterwards either.
I'll be honest with you. Some of these athletes and these fighters, they get in states where I sort of think, I'm so glad I'm friends with this guy, because they get in extremely powerful states.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that I want them to be in, because when they're in these powerful states, they're going to find it easier and easier to get into access these powerful states, and then replicate it on the night of the event.
Okay, cool. So you talked about Barry Thane being one of your influences, and I was wondering what some of your other influences have been in your development as a change worker.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of split into two sections, which is the older or dead or now dead section, and then there's the more modern. So in the older and now dead is obviously Gregory Bateson, who I massively rate, and Robert Heinlein as well, who was just a science fiction author, is just amazing. I've taken quite a lot of my kind of sort of backroom methodologies from him.
Right.
Obviously Erickson, Elmans, and Bandler and Grinder, and also Frank Farrelly. Sometimes I work provocatively with so that's the either currently dead or just slightly old section. It's a bit more respectful, shouldn't it?
Slightly old, yeah.
Also Pavlov, Pavlovian sort of classical conditioning is really a massive part of what I do.
Okay.
And also more recently, who's also dead or very old, is Andrew Salter's work. He's absolutely mind blowing, which is all about excitation and all that kind of stuff.
Sorry, Andrew
Salter.
Salter, okay.
More recently, it would be Stephen Gilligan, who was obviously a student of Erickson.
Yeah.
Barry Thane is about the best hypnotist I've ever seen. Hypnotherapist I've ever seen. James Tripp is a friend and also somebody who continues to inspire me. He's over at Hypnosis Without Trance. Andrew Austin has been a massive influence on me.
Yeah.
And continues to be, as well as being a good friend. Michael Perez, Nick Kemp, and also Ramachandran, who's the rock and roll neuroscientist.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also I take some of my work from an American guy called Jeff Stevens, who, actually Andrew Austin and Jeff Stevens I'm hosting later this year.
Right.
Jeff Stevens, he's got such a very no BS practical approach to hypnosis, which is direct hypnosis, and I really rate his work. So he's coming over here, I think, in October, which is.
And you're hosting that, is that right?
Yeah, I'm hosting. Yeah, that's going to be in London in October. So if anyone wants to see that, that's on westessexhypnotherapy.co.uk. Details for that. But I really like his style. He's specifically Jeff Stevens and Barry Thane are so massively their intention and their ability to intend. When they are doing sort of hypnosis and all the rest of it. Is just phenomenal. I think for me that's a really, really big deal.
Have you found a nice blend then between like the more what was seen as the Ericksonian type in direct stuff and then the Barry Thane and direct?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like most NLP trained people, I sort of started off I was a real snob, thinking, you know, Ericksonian was, you know, was real hypnosis and, you know, all that other stuff, just nonsense. And you know, that real ignorance of mine has been eroded away when I've seen some of the amazing things that have been done with, you know, traditional or direct, or what some people call authoritarian methods. And now, right now, I probably say I'm probably about 50-60, with maybe 60% more direct than I am Ericksonian. But yeah, I do use a blend of both, and it does change from person to person. Some people are more responsive to one thing than the other.
And I suppose it goes back to that flexibility that you're talking about, there, where someone might be, like you say, with like fighters, they sometimes they need to be direct, because that's what they're used to when they're training with their coach and things like that. And then you have the more indirect things as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So when you're, because obviously you have also said that you have a private practice outside of the fighter's mind things, and I was just wondering, as you were building up that business, what kind of things, marketing wise, did you find to be useful when building up your client base?
Working hard, I think, probably more than anything.
Okay.
Andrew Austin has got really good marketing set of DVDs, which I was lucky enough to be at during he was sort of filming the workshop, and you know, you know, actually it's called Brass Bollocks, which is
great title.
It's excellent. It's really excellent. You know, one of the things he kind of very provocatively says is that hypnotherapists are lazy. You know. And, you know, I mean, I think that everyone thinks that when they start up a hypnotherapy practice, that clients are going to, because they told me on the course that cost me $3,000 that I was going to get clients, they're going to, the floodgates are open. And, you know, I remember sort of like getting my website done, and I'm like, right, it's done. And, you know, as I said, right, I have to get this done by the new year. And the new year chimed, and it was, right, we're open for business. You know, I had nothing, you know, for months. And, you know, I realised that trying to use any kind of persuasive or hypnotic language is an utter waste of time. Complete waste of time. You're trying to use languaging. For me, this is my own personal opinion. I could be wrong. You know, I'm often 7 times a day, but I found it to be an absolute waste of time. And you know, you doing that kind of thing is you're just basically, it's kind of like literary masturbation. Effectively, you're doing it because you know how to do it, not because it's actually effective. What I found to be effective is basically speaking the same way that everyone else does in the street. Like, I've got a problem. You know, can you help me get rid of this problem? Or, you know, that kind of thing. Instead of like, let me guide you so you can gain a solution. People are going to go, what are you talking about? It's double Dutch gobbledygook. I mean, you can use that kind of stuff in trance, but it's called hypnotic language because, you know, it's language that's historically used in hypnosis when the critical portion of your mind is down, so you can basically say it whichever way you want, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. I think plain speaking, hard work and continual attention. And, you know, I mean, Andrew Austin is someone who I you know, like I say, is like a friend and somebody who I really, really respect, because that guy works. You know, if James Brown is the hardest working man in show business, he is always working, always putting on workshops, always adding stuff to his website. So I mean, he's somebody who I really pay attention to because, number one, because he's very successful, and number two, because he's just got such an excellent work ethic. So hard work and just making things clear, I think.
Do you find that your experience in martial arts and knowing that things don't always come across the way you want them to, and it takes for you to go back and to work at it, that then breeds the success? Do you find that work ethic helped you when you had those times where it didn't quite work out the way you wanted?
I guess so. I mean, it's difficult, Aaron, because I've only ever been me. And I've had people who I really respect, and they've been, you know, master NLP trainers or whatever it is. I don't know what title, but and they've said, you know, oh, you've really inspired me, and I'm like, well, I'm just like, I'm